G'day guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Wildkard. Thank you for watching the Wildkard Rugby Show. Like, comment, and subscribe. And yes, you are here today because the mighty Reds has fallen to the Chiefs at Hamilton, in front of the Cowbells, no less. And yes, this was a really tough match. It was rainy, wet conditions, and overall, I was pretty proud of the Reds. Mental guts. I mean, the mental fortitude to try to grind this game out, sticking to the game plan, sticking to the physicality against the Chiefs, which is something I've been calling for years, and I'm finally getting. So I'm really proud of the physical the physical delivery, the physical confrontation that the Reds showed in this game against the Kiwi team away from home. But they lost this game. I think some people might say because of the missed goal kicks and not taking 3 points when it was on offer. I'm sure that's what the Kiwi commentators will talk about at the breakdown, but that's not the case. That is 100% not the reason why the Reds lost. Not because they didn't take the goals, but because of their because the executions, quite frankly, from them, some of the core set piece wasn't able to pay out for them. Line out handling was not that great. The more was really poorly executed a couple of times, knocking the ball on and then getting wrapped up in the opposition. More not peeling out sooner is one of the reasons the Reds wasn't able to execute. There was a bit of wet conditions. Some of the kicking was a little bit inaccurate, but yeah, the overall, it's the set piece, the forwards, the forwards not really able to click into the clockwork machine that we've seen in the past few rounds out of the Reds, and that's the reason the Reds lost, not because they didn't take the 3 points. Now there was a point where the Reds was down to 14 players with a yellow card to the tight head prop, to Manga Allen, and there was penalty off the right in front of the goalpost that the commentary was saying the Reds should have taken the 3. I did disagree. I think the Reds backing themselves, in a situation that they're down a player is one of the best ways to improve. To be able to execute with the play in the bin is how you become, better. It's what the All Blacks used to do under Richard McCaw. They play better with 14 players on the field because players are mentally trained throughout the season to kick themselves into another level, to kind of like a wake up call, and that's 100% a mentality thing. That's 100% a mental barrier a lot of the Australian teams had in the past. That I really like the fact that they pushed through that barrier. And also keep in mind, if you kick the goal, yes, you look slightly better on the scoreboard, but now you're defending with 14 players on the field. It's much easier to attack with 14 players when you are dictating where the ball is going than you're defending with 14 players when the opposition is trying to find where the missing player is on the field. It is, and if they kick the goal, the score, during that 10-minute yellow card period, instead of having 0-0 on the scoreboard, it could have been 3-7 or maybe 3-14 because the Chiefs will be able to score once, a lot easier once they got the ball. They can't score if they, the Chiefs can't score if you don't give them the ball, despite the fact that you have 14 players on the field. So ironically, the best way to defend when you have 14 players is to not give the opposition the ball by attacking. So I think the Reds absolutely made the right decision to not kick the 3 points because they actually save more points than the points they have earned from the penalty. So that is one thing that was really, really important. I think Reds control that really well. And I know, in the breakdown this weekend, they're going to probably talk about that. And then, they're going to do their calculators and say if the Reds had kicked all the penalties and then made the conversions, they would have won this one, or yada, 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 right? That's just not true. And that's just not the case. That's just not how the game actually going to turn out if you have taken the penalties when you're down to 14 players. So I absolutely applaud the players for backing themselves. And I think this is the mental barrier that Australian teams has been struggling with. And it's good to see that Les Kiers pushing the players through that barrier. And I'm really, really happy about the decision that was made. Despite the loss, I'm still happy with the performance by the Reds. And yes, like I said, lineouts wasn't good enough. The poor handling was a bit wet. I do think that Murray, let me get his full name correctly. Yeah, Murray did really, really well with his kicking game. He's improved a lot. From the beginning of the season, he was quite shaky. His kicking was a bit off, but it was really good tonight. He was able to, counter attack and put the high ball up and challenge the high ball himself and getting some really good results there. Much safer on the high ball as well. Didn't drop any ball like he did in the past. Like the handling, he got improved there as well. So big thumbs up for the improvement from Murray. The Chiefs, again, the bench coming off the bench. I talked about this in the preview in my weekly news. They're really stacked at the bench with the All Blacks, with players like Tupuvai, starting players for the All Blacks, just coming off the absolutely hammered the Reds in the second half. Samapeni Finau, the physicality just not quite there for the Reds to match out, and the you can see that the fatigue just started building on the Reds pack, and then the Chiefs finished off really strong, just starting to pounce through with a lot of their big forwards coming off the bench, yielding immediate impact off the bench. So that's something I guess the Reds could work towards, having more depth on the bench, and really well done for the Chiefs. I think the kicking game wise, I actually don't think the Reds, the Chiefs won the kicking game. I think the Reds actually handled the kicking a bit better, despite Damien McKenzie occasionally putting out some good kicks. But outside of that, I didn't think the Chiefs kicking game was that particularly impressive tonight, and I was actually more impressed by some of the decisions that the Reds made when it comes to the kicking game. There was a bit of a penalty that was being raised by the Reds, which is the Chiefs cleaning a player out, pass and way beyond the ball, and that was caught out by the ref early in the second half. And finally, the referee Nick Berry wasn't having any of the scrum resets. There was, I think that there was 50, the Reds probably won the scrum for maybe the first 50 minutes, and then the Chiefs reserves came on and just kind of started to, especially late in the second half when Tupuvai start coming on, adding more weight into the pack, really started putting the squeeze on the Reds scrum late in the second half, which is kind of how you want to finish the game strong. But I thought the Reds did pretty good in the first 50 minutes, and I thought the referee was a little bit reluctant to give out some of the penalties that seemingly it looked like Aiden Ross, right? Sorry, not Aiden Ross. What's his name? This guy, George Dyer, was on his knees on the ground on quite a few of the scrums. He did get himself back up, but that should have been a penalty in my opinion, and the referee just didn't quite call out. I think the Reds probably could have got a bit more out of that, especially in the first half. The referee was Nick Berry from Queensland. When I saw this, I was like, 16th play on the field for the Reds. Nick Berry I thought was pretty not too bad. Was pretty neutral in this, and other than the scrums not called, I thought was fine. There was that Tumunga Allen yellow card. They had to, there was a slight head collision on a clean out on what's his name? Luke Jacobson. It looked like he's taken a shot out of Jacobson. Jacobson had his head in the ruck. He looked up and looked down, and he looked up again, and then Tumunga Allen smacked him on the head. Looked like almost deliberate on taking a shot there. So I thought, maybe the yellow card was warranted for that one, despite not really being too much of an impact. It did look like, they had an eye contact, and then he'd taken a shot on him when Luke Jacobson poked his head up for the second time there. So let me know your thoughts there. I do think that when Jacobson landed on Filippo Daugunu's leg, looked like an Anton Dupont-esque sort of thing in the ruck. I don't know if that's something they should start looking into more at World Rugby, because hopefully Daugunu is going to be okay. He had his leg strap, but he might have to take some time off because of that. You never want to see players getting injured because of this stuff. Is starting to happen to be bit more frequent than I think it should be allowed. Anyway, let's have a look at the match stats of the game. 3 tries apiece, 298 run winners to the Reds, 297. 18 turnovers considered for the Chiefs, 20 for the Reds. Just wet conditions. Both teams are knocking the ball on left and right. There was one point where the Reds had a maul set up like the Springboks just in the middle of the field, and then got the ball stolen. It just got wrapped up and poorly executed again. That sort of turnovers. I was really happy to see they tried it, but not quite executing. It ended up being a turnover. Wasn't really ideal there, so they can have to polish that up. 128 tackles made by the Chiefs, 13 missed tackles. 165 tackles made by the Reds, 20 missed tackles there. 21 kicks in play for the Chiefs, 24 for the Reds. 0 conversions, both Liner and McLaren Phillips. What's his name? McLaren Phillips. It's just not really quite getting their goal kicking on tonight. Not sure if the wet conditions or cowbells. Especially Liner, when he came off the bench, I was like, oh, he's gonna get this one. Missed the one that he scored himself. 741 kick meters for the Chiefs, 698 for the Reds. There was 7 lineouts lost for the Chiefs, 2 lineout loss for the Reds. Both weren't that great. So so the 2 lineout loss for the Reds was late in the second half when Tupavai came on. But there were some mistakes for the Reds when they technically didn't lose the lineout, but they didn't set up the maul properly, knocking on the ball after the lineout has been finished. So that sort of stuff. They're technically not considered a lineout loss, but they've lost. They've actually lost more lineouts due to poor execution than 2. 1 scrum loss for both sides tonight. 7 penalties considered overall for the Chiefs, 12 for the Reds. A little bit, especially late in the second half. The pressure started coming on by the bench from the Chiefs. The penalty count started to compound, and 1 yellow card to Tuamanga Jensen. Can't even say his name. But anyway, let's look at the recap of the game. It took only about a minute for the Chiefs to really get themselves in the front row and just steamrolling the Reds with short balls, crash balls. Eventually, there was Jacobson. He bumped over about 5 players. He ran into the player, rolled out of the tackle, the bump with more player, rolled out, and then still managed to score with about literally 5 players on him. 7 points to the under the post. Really well done. Reds finally get themselves back into some really good momentum, some really good pounding as well for the Reds, showing the Chiefs they can do that, getting a penalty. They went for the line out, they went for the maul, and then going through for the try. 7 points to the 5, missed the conversion there. 26 minutes to the end, the Chiefs had a penalty. They kicked 3 points. I was like, yes, maybe we have the chance if the Chiefs keeps kicking penalties. Didn't quite come to fruition. 10 points to 5. 39 minutes into the game, there was the Reds Chiefs line out that was stolen by the Reds. Dalguni got the ball. He put up a high ball. The ball was knocked back by Damien McKenzie, and the ball was followed through by a toe forward by Bryle, who ran in his own ball for the try. 10 points apiece. Halftime poor, 10 points apiece. The Reds could have been in front if they kicked the penalty to keep the conversions, but hey, 41 minutes into the game, second half, Manga Allen gets sent off a yellow card on a Jacobson hit. There was a try almost scored by McLennan Phillips just before around 47 minutes. He was around on the try line, got the tackle on him, and he dropped the ball just before the try line as he went for the grounding. So if he had actually knocked the ball on, if he actually had had the ball roll down his chest as he landed on the try line, that would have been fine. But the fact that it was short, the ball rolling from his hand to the chest resulted in a knock on, even though the ball didn't have separations from his body, because the fact that it wasn't over the try line, that's still a knock on. That only the no separations only applies if you are actually over the try line in the process of scoring a try. There was a scrum penalty to the Reds, despite having only 7 players on the field at 49 minutes, which was really, really good. 50 minutes, the Reds try to do a springbok more in the middle of the field from out of nowhere, and then got stuffed. 56 minutes of the game, the Chiefs powerhouses are coming on to Hawaii. They got a penalty to kick 3 points, 13 points to 10. 17 minutes into the game, Takiyaho from the Chiefs pounds over for the Chiefs for the leg drive. 20 points for the to 10. Again, the four pads really starting to start to show their power. There was a Chiefs scrum penalty as well following this. Just really starting to hurt. 78 minutes into the game. The Reds looking like they're completely falling apart. Penalties given away left and right. There was a lot of pick and go from the Chiefs getting close to the try line. Xavier Rowe gets crashed over for the try. Got really close. Xavier Rowe picked the ball, saw the little try line in front of him, darts the ball down for the try. 27 points to 10. And finally, after this was over, 80 minutes, the Reds had one last swing at it. They were pretty close to the try line. Harry Wilson, the big number 8, did a little grabber kick, and Liner follows through, ground the ball for the try. 27 points to 15 was the finish to the game. But it's not the best, not the best execution from the Reds. I do like the guts that was on display. So overall, I think this, the Reds still has a lot to work on. Obviously the depth issues. The Chiefs were able to just pull away with their big forwards coming off the bench, and then also the Reds have to work on their some of their executions on the lineouts. I know it's raining out there. But it is everybody has to work. The Chiefs had the same issues there, so the Reds needs to get better at that. It's just good thing. But I think the Reds are heading towards the right direction, and yeah, I'm pretty happy regardless for the effort. And yeah, thanks for watching, guys. Like, comment, subscribe, and let me know your thoughts. Have a good one. Cheers.